looked at my daughter and called her pathetic. Said nothing good would come from a child raised by someone like me. Her security guards had my arm twisted behind my back. My 7-year-old was crying at my feet, and this woman dripping in diamonds stood there like she owned the world. 10 minutes later, she was on her knees, sobbing. Let me tell you, 3 years ago, my wife Rachel died in my arms. Cancer took her 2 days before Christmas. I remember everything about that hospital room, the smell of disinfectant mixed with something else, something final, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, the steady beep of machines counting down her last moments. Our daughter Emily was 4 years old, waiting at home with my mother. She didn't know her world was about to shatter. Rachel grabbed my hand with what little strength she had left. Her fingers were so thin, I could feel every bone. Her voice was barely a whisper. But her eyes were fierce. She made me promise 2 things. First, never let Emily forget how to smile. Christmas was always her favorite time of year. She didn't want our girl to only remember loss during this season. Second, always be there for her, no matter what, no matter how hard things got. I promised, swore on everything I had. Rachel smiled, that same smile I fell in love with 15 years ago at a county fair in Ohio. Then her grip loosened, the machines flatlined, and just like that, she was gone. The medical bills took everything else, the house we'd saved 10 years for, every penny in our savings, the truck my father gave me before he passed, all gone within 6 months. Now Emily and I live in a 1-bedroom flat, where the heating works maybe half the time, the pipes freeze in January, the landlord never fixes anything. Some nights, when it's really cold, I give Emily my blanket and shiver until morning. She never knows, I make sure of that, but every Christmas, every single one, I keep my promise. I give her magic, because that's what Rachel asked me to do. December 23rd. Winterland Amusement Park, Seattle, $85 admission. A full day's wages swinging a hammer in the freezing cold. Emily's eyes lit up when she saw the giant Christmas tree, must have been 40 feet tall, covered in 1,000 golden lights. She squeezed my hand so tight. Daddy, it's magical. She looked just like Rachel when she smiled. Same dimples, same spark in her eyes. My chest ached. We were walking toward the carousel when something slammed into my leg. I looked down. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, black, wearing an expensive white coat, with fur trim that probably cost more than my monthly rent, but her face was streaked with tears. Her breath came in ragged, panicked gasps. She was clutching my jeans with both fists, like I was the only solid thing in a spinning world. I knew that terror. I'd seen it in Emily's eyes once, years ago, when she got separated from us at a grocery store. Rachel found her crying in the cereal aisle, clutching a box of Lucky Charms like a lifeline. I thought you left me forever, she'd sobbed. That memory still cuts deep. I dropped to one knee. Hey, it's okay, you're safe now. Emily knelt beside me, told the girl that her daddy was nice, that we'd help find her mother. Her name was Sophie. She couldn't tell me what her mother looked like, too scared to remember. I took her to security. The place was chaos. 6 missing child reports already backed up. The guard told me honestly they were overwhelmed. Suggested I wait near the carousel where parents usually looked, so that's what I did. Emily pointed out the carousel horses to Sophie, the white one with roses, the black one with golden hooves. Slowly, Sophie's tears dried. I lifted her onto my shoulders so her mother could spot her easier. For a moment, watching them laugh together, under the Christmas lights, everything felt okay. I had no idea what was coming. What happened next changed everything. Stay with me. Let me tell you about Victoria Anderson, billionaire, CEO of a tech empire worth $3 billion. Forbes' most powerful women list 3 years running. The kind of woman who's never heard the word no in her entire life. But here's what the magazines never print. She hadn't spent real time with Sophie in months, maybe longer. Nannies raised that child. Housekeepers fed her, tutors taught her. Victoria signed the checks. That day, she'd only brought Sophie to the park, because the nanny called in sick, and she spent the whole time on her phone. Sophie asked for the carousel, Victoria said later. Sophie asked for cotton candy. Victoria told her to be quiet, she was on an important call. Then her assistant called about some crisis with tomorrow's charity gala. Victoria let go of Sophie's hand to scroll through emails. 30 seconds, that's all it took. When she looked up, Sophie was gone. 30 minutes of hell followed. She searched everywhere, screamed Sophie's name until her voice cracked. broke her designer heels running through crowds, tore her $1,000 cashmere wrap on a fence. Didn't even notice. Then her security team radioed in, they'd found Sophie, near the carousel, with a stranger, white male, late 30s, shabby clothes, work boots, had her on his shoulders. Every kidnapping story Victoria had ever read exploded in her head at once, every news report, every warning, her blood turned to ice. She ran. I didn't see her coming. 1 second, Sophie was pointing at the Christmas tree lights. The next, a woman burst through the crowd like a freight train. She screamed at her security to grab me. Before I could react, 2 bodyguards slammed into me. One wrenched my arm behind my back. Pain shot through my shoulder like fire. I didn't resist. Sophie was still on my shoulders. I lowered her carefully, gently, even as my arm screamed. I tried to explain. Told her there'd been a misunderstanding, that this child was lost, and I was just. She cut me off, told me to shut up. Then she snatched Sophie so hard the child cried out. She turned on me, designer coat, diamond earrings, eyes like shattered ice. She called me garbage, asked what a piece of trash like me was doing touching her daughter, demanded to know what I was after. Money or something worse. The crowd gathered. Phones rose like a forest of glowing eyes. Then Emily ran over. My baby girl grabbed my leg, tears streaming down her face, asked me what was happening. What had she done wrong? What had I done wrong? Victoria glanced at Emily, at her second-hand coat with a broken zipper, her crooked braids that I'd done myself that morning, and she laughed. Cold, cruel, the kind of laugh that tells you exactly what someone thinks of you. That's your daughter? She shook her head. Pathetic. What's a kid going to become with a father like that? Something snapped inside me, something primal, dark, but I held it. For Emily, I looked Victoria dead in the eyes. Don't talk about my daughter. She sneered and turned to her security. Hold him until the police arrive. If he tries to run, break his legs. Then a small voice cut through everything. Sophie, she screamed at her mother to stop. Said I wasn't a bad person, that her mother wasn't looking for her, she was on her phone. That she'd been scared and alone and I was the only one who helped. The words hit Victoria like bullets. Sophie kept going, voice cracking, tears streaming down her cheeks. She said she was so scared when she got lost, that she called for her mother and her mother didn't come, that nobody helped her except me and Emily, that we took her to security, that we stayed with her so she wouldn't be afraid. Then Sophie said something that changed everything. He saved me, mother. Why are you being so mean to him? The color drained from Victoria's face. She looked at me, really looked, at my twisted arm, my calm face, the complete absence of anger in my eyes. Then at Emily, my 7-year-old daughter, standing with her arms spread wide, protecting her father, ready to face down a billionaire for the man who braided her hair that morning. Victoria's knees buckled. She collapsed, right there on the dirty pavement, in front of hundreds of people, hundreds of phones. She whispered that she was sorry, that she'd lost her mind, that she was scared and she didn't think and she was so sorry. I should have been furious. Part of me was, but I thought about Rachel, what she would have done in this moment. People lash out when they're terrified, Michael. It's not an excuse, but it's the truth. And hurt people hurt people. I extended my hand. Get up. Victoria stared at my hand through her tears, asked why I wasn't angry. I told her the truth, because you were scared, and I'm a father too. If I lost Emily, I might have done the same thing. If this story touches you, subscribe. It means more than you know. Sophie tugged Victoria's hand, told her to say sorry to Emily too, that she'd made her cry. Victoria looked at my daughter. Those frightened eyes, the tear tracks on her cheeks. A child who had done nothing wrong, who had helped Sophie when she was scared. And Victoria had called her pathetic. She knelt down to Emily's level, told her she was wrong, so wrong, that there was no excuse for what she'd said. Emily studied her for a long moment, then asked a question that cracked something open inside me. Do you love Sophie? Victoria's voice broke. Said yes, more than anything in the world. Emily nodded slowly. My daddy loves me too. That's why he helped Sophie, because he knows what it's like to be scared for someone you love. Then Emily said something that silenced everyone. My daddy says we should always help scared people, because someday someone might help us when we're scared too. Victoria was crying openly now, tears cutting clean lines through her makeup. She whispered that Emily's father must be an incredible man. Emily smiled, bright, pure, unbroken. He's the best daddy in the whole world. I had to look away. Rachel, you hear that? Our girl, she's amazing. Later, Victoria tried to give me money, a check, a job offer. Anything. I said no. She looked stunned. Probably never been turned down before. I told her money wouldn't fix this, that if she really wanted to make it right, stop judging people by their clothes, their job, their bank account. I have calluses on my hands because I work hard. My jacket's worn because every extra dollar goes to my daughter. That doesn't make me less of a man. Later that evening, Victoria overheard a conversation. An event organizer had offered me construction work, good pay, steady hours. I turned it down. She asked me why. I told her the timeline ran through Christmas. I'd promised Emily I'd be there with her, no exceptions. Even if we're broke, even if we have nothing, I'll be there. Victoria started crying again. She told me something that cracked her open completely. That morning before the park, Sophie had asked her a simple question. "Mother, do you love me?" Victoria had been on her phone, barely looked up. Said yes, of course. Sophie was quiet for a moment, then said, "Then why don't you ever look at me when you say it?" Victoria had brushed it off, too busy, too distracted. Now those words haunted her. She asked me how I did it, how I could be such a good father when everything was so hard. I told her the truth. I just show up, every day, that's all. My wife asked me to always be there for Emily, so I am, even when I'm exhausted, even when I can barely pay rent, even when I want to give up, because that's what kids really need, not money, not fancy things, just us, being there. Victoria was quiet for a long time, then she said something I'll never forget. "I've been building an empire for Sophie, thinking success would protect her." She looked at the ground, but she didn't need an empire, she needed me. She invited us for Christmas dinner, no events, no other guests, just 4 people who needed each other. I almost said no, but Emily looked at Sophie, and Sophie looked at Emily, and both their faces lit up, like the Christmas tree we'd seen that night. Christmas Day. Victoria's mansion was something out of a magazine, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, art on every wall. But the dining room was different. She decorated it herself, with Sophie. Paper snowflakes hung crooked from the chandelier. A centerpiece of pine branches sat slightly off-center. Construction paper stars covered in glitter. Nothing matched. Nothing was perfect. It was the most beautiful room I'd ever seen. We cooked together. Actually together. I made my grandmother's stuffing recipe. Victoria burned the potatoes, twice. We laughed. For the first time in what felt like forever, I laughed. After dinner, Sophie gave me a bracelet she'd made. Bead spelling hero. Crooked. Imperfect. Made by a 5-year-old's hands. I had to look away again. Then Victoria knelt before Sophie, told her she was sorry, for never being there, for always being too busy, for choosing work over her own daughter. Sophie was quiet for a moment, then she said something that broke us all. "When I was lost, I didn't look for you, Mother." Victoria's breath caught, "Because I thought you wouldn't come." Victoria sobbed, deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere ancient. She promised to change, promised to be there from now on. Sophie hugged her. "I love you, Mother. I love you too, baby. More than all the money in the world." Later, after the girls fell asleep by the fire, hands still intertwined, Victoria took my hand. "This is the best Christmas of my life." I looked at Emily, at Sophie, at the crooked paper snowflakes, and I realized, it was mine too. Have you ever judged someone by their clothes, their job, how much money they have? Be honest. Share your story in the comments. Pass this to someone who needs it.